everybody. I have an amazing little secret gem for you guys today. We're going to be talking about Scottsdale, Arizona. And with me is Nicole, who is a colleague of mine, and she is going to give you lots of secret gems that I didn't even know existed.
Yes.
I'm super excited. I was like, woo! So
Yes.
I'm getting some education this morning too. But I wanted to keep something a little domestic because I know that those of us who are still a little shy of, going international or just want to have a little travel before all the borders open, here's a great opportunity. And also we're going to have some options that Nicole's going to give us. So with that, I'm going to give the floor.
Okay, great. Good morning. And thank you for having me this morning. I'm very excited to speak about Scottsdale. I'm actually an Arizona native, which I've also heard is rare. So aside from the presentation, there's probably a few more hidden gems I have under my sleeve. So I'm very excited to talk about Scottsdale and all that we have to offer. So I think even for those that have been here, there's a lot to see and do that they probably don't even know about. So
that's super awesome, right? Because it's that we're always discovering something right in our own backyards. So
for sure.
So great opportunity here. So you have given us a great presentation. I'm going to switch us over.
All right.
So that way you can kind of talk a little bit about all those moving pieces.
Okay, perfect. Obviously, welcome to sunny Scottsdale this morning. We've had some pretty perfect weather, but I always like to start out for those that are not familiar with Scottsdale and or where it is. Obviously in the great state of Arizona, which is also known as the Grand Canyon State, we actually own the entire Grand Canyon, no matter what Las Vegas or Nevada tries to claim. So as you can see there, the red dot is Scottsdale. We're very centrally located. We are a suburb of Phoenix, but we truly are our very own destination. But very close proximity to the airport, which is very helpful too.
Absolutely.
Yes. And so Scottsdale is long and skinny. Our landmass is about 32 miles north to south and 7 miles east to west. Our south point of Scottsdale is about 15 minutes from Sky Harbor Airport, the main airport here in Scottsdale. 1/3 of the city of Scottsdale is actually protected Sonoran Desert Preserve. So I always like to point that out because there really is so much to do here on an outdoor activity standpoint. There's over 30,000 acres of protected land with over 200 miles of hiking, biking, horseback riding, and rock climbing trails. Yes, horseback riding is a great activity here in the Scottsdale area, as well as what's our next?
Famous
hot air ballooning. We actually have the most flyable days of anywhere in the U.S. Because of our temperate weather and low wind. You can pretty much fly any day of the year. Obviously, the heat can be a little bit of a factor in the summer, so they only offer sunrise tours in the summer. But October through April, there is a sunset tour. And the really great thing about hot air ballooning out here is it's a great way to see the desert if you're maybe not the type that wants to go for a hike or mountain biking. You can float along the desert, and then when you finish, you get a nice little champagne toast at the end. Culture.
Awesome.
Yeah, culture is a huge part of who we are, not only as a state, but as Scottsdale as a destination. We actually butt up to one of the larger reservations here in the state. The Salt River Pima Maricopa Indian community is a huge part of Scottsdale as well, but the state as a whole actually has the most tribes of any state in the country. We have 25 tribes that reside here in the state. So we have really great partnerships and do festivals like this pretty regularly as well.
That's awesome. And so, I mean, these are just cultural things that obviously, as we're, most parents are homeschooling, you can
Right.
actually take your child to these destinations. They'll get history firsthand. They'll get some science classes because of the nature and things like that. And
Right.
really just exposing them to all of these wonderful moving pieces. And Arizona, from Texas is really not that far of a drive. My
No.
my East Coasters, I know you guys will have a little bit longer of a drive, but you know what? If you're ready, we can pop you on a quick flight. But if not, we can certainly do a drive destination so that you can kind of have a really good experience here.
Absolutely. Yes.
So and I
Yeah.
was shocked. I was like, I knew that there was a number of hotels and resorts and things like that, but I didn't realize that you guys had 70 at a
Yeah.
minimum. And so, are they? And when are they scheduled to open?
We actually have there are some resorts that are still open. Restaurants are opening today, so that's going to change the dynamic a little bit for some of these resorts. There are some of the smaller properties that are still closed through the month of May, but with our resorts, the beauty of Scottsdale properties is that we're not those big skyscrapers. They're very spread out. Even the properties that have a few hundred rooms are taking pretty extreme precautions to make sure that everyone's safety is, of utmost importance. The Phoenician, for example, which is definitely one of our larger resorts, they are spacing out rooms. They are blocking out parts of the property room-wise to ensure that the rooms they are selling are of the utmost cleanliness during this time. But we do, like I said, a lot of our resorts are actually still open. Some of the smaller properties, some of our boutique properties, as well as limited service properties are closed. But it's slow going, but we're taking all the precautions that we need to make sure that the guest safety really is number one.
And that's awesome. And we talked about the boutique properties, even though they're closed. You have smaller properties, which is great, especially for those families that maybe haven't seen each other but still want to kind of just social distance and just be together, right? So
yes.
So it's a great opportunity where we can easily, on a domestic side, buy you out into a self-quarantining area just for you and your family.
Yes, and even prior to COVID, there's a few properties. For example, the Hermosa Inn is a 43-room property, and they do a lot of weddings or family gatherings because you truly can buy out the entire property. It's one of my favorite properties. It was a artist's home back in the 30s. An artist named Lon McGargy who came out and just found inspiration in the desert and eventually turned it, the new owners after Lon eventually turned it into a bed and breakfast, and it's been that ever since the 40s.
That's awesome. And so, people don't really realize that you can have a destination wedding domestically as well. And
yes.
So for those of you guys in the north, or just in different states, and you want to have that I want to stay in the States because people don't have, passports or don't want to do any of that. We can organize all of those moving pieces. So this is really great.
Yes, we do actually quite a few destination weddings, and baby moons and honeymoons too are a good one to mention.
Awesome.
Golf has always been part of our culture here in Scottsdale, along with the resorts. We actually have 51 golf courses in Scottsdale proper. So we represent the Scottsdale and Paradise Valley. So there's 51 golf courses, and in the Phoenix metropolitan area, there is roughly 200 golf courses. Sometimes it's hard to keep track of how many. Sometimes it'll take a 18 hole golf course and split it up, but lots and lots of golf. I also like to point out too, because we are in the desert, and obviously water is a resource that people think about when they think of our golf courses. It's all reclaimed water. It's a very very complex system to make sure that these courses do stay green without, tapping into the resources that we need here
I
in
love
the
that it's
valley.
sustainable. That's
Yes,
awesome.
exactly.
And talking
Spas.
about sustainable, we have wellness.
Yes, wellness is a huge component of travel here in Scottsdale. Along with our, resort spas, we also have a lot of day spas. We recently, the furthest north point of the Scottsdale area, a property named Savannah opened up, and it is truly focused on that wellness aspect. They have a yoga lawn, and in their resort fee, they call it an experience fee, includes a lot of those classes within the property. So we really do have a great focus on wellness. There really is something very cleansing about the desert to add on to, the yoga and the spa treatments and all of those great things. A lot of groups, wellness groups, will do a hike in the desert just to get that different sense of nature too.
Absolutely. And for those of you guys who are wellness coaches or even business coaches that are looking to maybe work with your corporate clients for that corporate wellness piece, this is a great opportunity to be able to have those company offsites, do that corporate wellness. And you guys as wellness coaches, whether you want to maybe just tell your families, hey, this is, or your clients, this is a great place that we can certainly organize something for. We can also do something for you guys too. So if you want to do that group setup, we have the ability to do that. So you can actually lead your own retreat or things like that.
Yes, absolutely.
Awesome. And I love the number of days of sunshine that you guys have. I'm like, yay.
It always jumps between 310 and 330, depending on if it's a drought year. Only getting 7 inches of rain in the valley, losing a few days can be considered a quote unquote drought year. But, I do like to point out the fact that we have a ton of sunshine and that's a statewide level. So, to speak on that as well, Scottsdale really is kind of, we're right in the center of the state, but it is a great place to hub and spoke out to Sedona or the Grand Canyon, or go down south to Tucson or Tombstone, or, wherever your heart desires. But, we really are so blessed here with so much great sunshine and no humidity, which really does make a big difference. I know I get the side eye sometimes when I talk about, it's quote unquote a dry heat, but it really does make a very, very big difference.
Oh, absolutely, it does. And I mean, I moved from New York to Austin, Texas, so and I can tell you that the absolute difference. Yes. And there are humid days here,
sure.
But where you guys still have a lot less in that regard. And I will certainly say that, yes, I absolutely loved going into Arizona. And one of the things that I really enjoyed, which is something that you mentioned, was actually driving south into Tucson.
Yes.
And even into Tombstone. Tombstone is a great little day excursion that everybody will have a blast, because you're really truly recreating the Old West. So,
yeah, exactly. Okay,
and going into the saloons and everything else, and I love seeing kids' faces when they take a look at these kind of things, because it's not really a film setup. It's a true town.
Right. And it's, and that was really, that's one of the things that I truly love about our state, is there really is so much diversity wherever it is that you drive around. And again, speaking kind of on that, dry heat and weather, it's really not 100 degrees all day, every day, all year round. And because we are the desert, yeah, exactly. And because we are in the Sonoran Desert, there is, a bit of a temperature difference. But here's a great picture too. You can take a Jeep tour or a Hummer or a self-drive UTV out into the desert. And it's a really great way to explore the desert and learn about the flora and the fauna and the ecosystems in the desert. There's actually, recently I read a study that there's more plant life in the Sonoran Desert than the Amazon they're discovering, the different species of plants. So It's really not, as you can see by this picture, it's very green in the desert. This is actually only about 40 minutes outside of Scottsdale proper in the Tonto National Forest. You can go kayaking, you can do rafting, there's paddle boarding. And we have a lot of companies that will do these activities with the guests. And right out here on the Salt River and the Verde River, you'll see wild horses on any given day, even just driving through that part of the desert. So it's really a very cool experience.
That's awesome. And you guys also have, a great little old town as well. So you have the ability to have that great cultural feel, that old style West, what it was like for pioneers.
Exactly. Yes, we still have a few streets that are the original old town with the original post office, as well as the First Bank of Arizona, which is now actually I'll wait on that because I think it's in another slide. But Old Town is where we've got a lot of privately owned boutique shops, as well as restaurants, chef-driven restaurants. It's a great place to walk around and just do some exploring. Or if you want to buy your turquoise jewelry or your Mexican Serapa blankets, there's really quite a bit to do in Old Town.
That's awesome. And so this is a great picture.
Yeah, so this is an overhead shot. That the water, as we call the waterfront, is actually our canal system that dubs as what we like to call waterfront. But I do want to point out in the water there are some light features. In Scottsdale, art is actually a huge component. Any large corporate build, 3% of their total investment has to go back into the community in public art. So you will see sculptures and different sorts of interesting, interactive type art pieces throughout the entire city of Scottsdale. Because of that kind of requirement through the city, it really just helps enhance the way of life here.
I love it because it's you're doing a lot of art and cultural pieces, and you're getting even has to, and it's focused on this is awesome.
Yeah,
I haven't seen Scottsdale like
those
this.
tents are part of a festival, probably a food and wine festival or something going on in Old Town. Yeah. But again, to that art component, we have approximately 150 art galleries and art dealers in Scottsdale, just over 70 of them in our Old Town area. There's an arts district where there's a couple walkable streets in Old Town. And on Thursday nights, they do an art walk where you can go into these galleries and speak with the owners and sometimes even the artists, and they serve wine and cheese, and it's really just a nice way to walk around and enjoy some art. Their hope is that you'll take beautiful pieces home with you. Yes, exactly.
And look at some of these gems. I mean, these are really nice, and a lot of these things are handmade.
Correct. Yes, we do work with a lot of the local artists, as well as our Indian community, our Native American communities, on a lot of these pieces. So you'll find stores like this kind of spread out throughout the Old Town area. For sure. I was speaking at the Rusty Spur earlier. So obviously Native Americans are a huge part of our culture, but obviously we've got that cowboy culture too. We've got a great mix of both, but the Rusty Spur was originally the Bank of Arizona. And when the Great Depression hit, the bank closed, and it eventually reopened as a bar just a few years later. And it is still a working bar to this day. The original vault is still in the bar, which is where they house the alcohol now, which is kind of a fun little story. But they have live music every day, and every Saturday, Gary and his horse ride in at 3:00, strum a song, and then they back out. I think the bar's capacity is 43 people. It's just a tiny, really cool gem that is still in operation, which is pretty cool to see.
Absolutely. Now, this is something that threw me for a little bit of a loop.
Yes, yes,
So
yes, yes.
Arizona has wine tasting.
We do have wine tasting because we have approximately 70 vineyards in the state of Arizona. The vineyards are down south in the Wilcox area, very southern Arizona, as well as north in the Cottonwood and Sedona region. So because we do have so much sunshine and great weather, with that, reclaimed water again, we are able to grow grapes in the desert, which gives us this great opportunity to have these tasting rooms. So 6 of the larger vineyards, wineries in the state, have wine tasting rooms in Scottsdale. There's actually a company that does walking wine tours. Another one that will do wine tours on golf carts, where they go around and give you a little history lesson while you're drinking your wine. But yes, there is wine in the desert. So we do get a lot of, bachelorette parties because of that sort of thing as well.
Yeah, and that's awesome. So we don't always have to go to Napa Valley.
Right.
Not Napa is great, but we want to experience something else. So Scottsdale here is really giving us an opportunity to have some of these extra flavors. And here's a gastronomy adventure. There's 800 restaurants.
Yes, in Scottsdale proper.
Oh my God.
There's more per capita than Manhattan. Obviously, there's a difference in population with us being about, 230,000 residents.
Yeah.
But there is a lot of food that is grown in Arizona. A lot of food that people don't even realize. We have chefs that move out here from New York and Chicago because they can come and really, embrace themselves in the local flavor, as well as all of the great things that we grow here, and make a name for themselves. Last year, Chef Charlene was actually the James Beard Award winner for the South and the Southwest. So we are very proud of our local chefs. We have food tours that we do in the Old Town area too.
Absolutely.
Lots of great patios, I'm sure, as you can imagine.
Yeah, and so while you're doing those food tours, you'll get a good glimpse of some of the museums that are around.
Yes. So we have a few in Old Town. We actually have 2 Smithsonian affiliated museums in Scottsdale. One being the Spirit of the West Museum, which really focuses on the Western culture of the 17 most Western states, that cowboy and Indian culture, and kind of how we all got out west. It's a beautiful, beautiful museum. And along with that is the Musical Instrument Museum, is another Smithsonian affiliated museum. The CEO of Target, I guess it's been almost 10 years now. Time flies. Yeah. Looked all over the world, and primarily the United States, for a great location to open up this fantastic interactive museum, and settled on the Scottsdale area. It's one of those museums that anytime I have guests come to town, I always take them, and it's hard to pull them out after even 2 hours. They do behind the scenes tours where there's a flute, a bone flute from, 200 AD or something in that museum. It's really just, it's quite fascinating.
And if it's interactive, who doesn't love music?
Yes, that's where they go. The music is really the language of the world, right?
Yeah, absolutely. So,
Taliesin West. So Taliesin West, if you're familiar with architect Frank Lloyd Wright, he came out to the desert again for inspiration in the late 20s and built Taliesin West, which was his home and his school. It was his winter school for his apprentices. It is still a working architecture school to this day. And last year it became a UNESCO World Heritage Site. So Frank Lloyd Wright was kind of one of those kind of founders of the art community. As he was riding through, coming through the desert, he came upon this artist community that is still a running artist community and compound today from the 1930s, that they actually, some of the artists there work with the local Ondas, resort, and they create all of their artwork in the rooms, their bowls. They do interactive art, different like one day they'll come in and they'll do watercoloring, and it's all completely free for the guests there. So kind of tying back into that artist community that really is a pretty big foundation for us here in Scottsdale.
Yeah, that's awesome. So we'd love to talk about what Scottsdale is, right? So we talked about the desert being hot. We talked about it being dry, and wild. I mean, because of all the moving pieces.
Yes,
so this was also the fauna and everything else that is so beautiful.
Yes, this was a marketing campaign that we launched this year, and kind of to play on those, what everyone thinks of when they think of Arizona and the desert. Definitely a play on words to show that there is so much more to do here in our beautiful destination, for sure.
And that is truly awesome, and I love that we're really able to kind of showcase a lot of the moving pieces here for it's just, I mean, I feel like I can just drive and be like, I don't need to hop on a plane. I can just drive, and really have an amazing experience that I couldn't necessarily fathom. And and I do a lot of international travel. And so now with all of the COVID and everything else that's going on, I'm even getting into a lot of the domestic stuff. And I'm loving sharing this with all of my clients and my followers, because these are hidden gems.
Yeah, and it's Scottsdale for many years was only known for golf or spa, which, I mean, don't get me wrong, are really great things to do here. But I think it's important to know that it's a great family destination. It's a great couples destination. It's a great luxury destination. It's a great place to come and discover some adventure, right? Or if you're more into the arts and culture, if you just want to eat your way through a city, there's lots of really great options. And, I have been in hospitality since high school, and I continue and I stay because, I mean, it very much like Texas, we have that very just hospitable way about us. So you can't walk into a resort and not feel like you're supposed to be there. If that makes sense.
And I very much agree. And so I, like you, have been in hospitality since pretty much I left high school. So I only know hospitality management, and so and all facets of it. So this is awesome, and I love that we share that passion. So I really thank you for taking the time this morning to share with us your love of your Scottsdale and those extra fine little pieces, because you are the queen of Arizona.
I have my moments.
So all good. Is there anything else that you'd like to add for the folks to listen to?
I don't think so, but I'm always available. If anyone needs my contact info, how to put them in touch with me or the website. But I really, as on my specialty is Scottsdale, obviously, but we as a state work really well with all of our city and state partners. So please know that if you have any questions Arizona-wise, that I'm here to help for sure.
Awesome. Yeah. Well, Nicole, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah. And until the next time.
Yeah. Have a great day. Happy Monday. Yeah, thank you. Bye.
Bye.